Thank you.
Okay, great. That brings us to the end of our tracks discussion for this afternoon. We will be welcoming Sasha back to the stage here in a few moments while she's wrapping up track one upstairs. So hang in there, but we will be joining this, everyone will be coming back to the room here in a few minutes.
Great. That was.
Fucking killed it, man.
Thanks. It's not me, that's for sure. Yeah.
Oh, later? Yeah. Thank you.
All right, hi everyone. So we have the last session today. I'm sure you guys are full of information. So I'm really excited to introduce Nader Shoureh. So he's going to take us through responsible AI beginnings with responsible data, and he's from Environics. Thanks.
Do I need to? Oh, here we go. All right. Hi, folks. Thanks for sticking this out. It's been a long day, lots of great information. My name is Nader. I'm with Environics Analytics. I run the practice that works directly with the public sector at all levels of government all across Canada. I want to talk to you today about how we think about data as it relates to AI, okay? What you see on the slide here is what came from our Privacy Commissioner of Canada a couple of weeks ago. Now, artificial intelligence, as we can tell here, like AI is a central topic in not just public sector conversations, but everywhere, really. Its effectiveness, though, I think its effectiveness really hinges on the quality of the data that powers it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I mean, it's really about the foundation of quality data. There are three themes that I really want to address, but topmost is quality data. And it's not just theoretical. I mean, it's essential for building trustworthy, effective, and inclusive AI systems in Canada. So my hope is, by the end of this 20 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever it is, that I can convince you that data quality is the true foundation of building strong AI systems and implementing them effectively and responsibly in this country. Now, before we get to that, before I give you my arguments, I want to level set. Okay? I did a whole bunch of research leading up to this talk, and I got through some articles from everyone from KPMG to RBC and a whole bunch of others. And I found a few key themes that present challenges here, or paint the picture in terms of the AI landscape and our current state here in Canada. Number one that stood out to me is that, and this is something that you just mentioned, Mark, is we've got a 30% vacancy in digital roles in the federal government. Now, what that means to me is that the teams that are responsible for digital transformation also have AI to contend with, and that's putting strains on an already constrained set of teams. Right? The AI Strategy Task Force, back in late September, outlined that since 2017, Canada's invested $742 million in AI initiatives. That's impressive. It's impressive because it shows us that there's a real ambition and there's a commitment to be leaders in this space. Okay? But the question now, I think, is how do we ensure that continued investment delivers the outcomes we're looking for? Because some of the spending has gone to, some of the spending is internal, some of the spending has been to external contractors, but we need to think about building that internal capacity more so that it aligns nicely with those partnerships that governments are building. Now, trust is an issue that came up as well in my research. We're seeing a disconnect between AI adoption and public comfort with that adoption. I saw research from KPMG, the Canadian Digital Service, and a few public opinion polls. AI adoption is growing in government, but public confidence isn't keeping pace. Okay? So there's a perception issue here. Canadians rank among the lowest globally in AI trust, 42 out of 47 countries. 42nd out of 47 countries. And this isn't because we're resistant to technology. Right? It's because we want to understand AI better and we want to see it implemented responsibly. When Canadians were asked about government AI use, opinion is split. 42% support it, 32% oppose it, and 25%, a full quarter, are waiting to see what happens. They're waiting to see whether it gets implemented responsibly. So eyes are on us. Now, what's encouraging is that Canadians are clear about what they want. They want better education, They want stronger oversight. They want meaningful engagement. They want to be involved in the process of how government introduces and implements AI and AI systems into the services and the programs that it delivers to Canadians. So transparency and accountability have become a theme here. Structural challenges, data fragmentation. I've heard this throughout the day, right? Data sitting in different systems, different formats across different departments at different levels of government, and it's a natural result, right? It's a natural result of how governments evolve. But we need consistent, connected data for AI to work well. We also face competition for AI talent, right? There's neighbors to the south that are offering much bigger compensation packages. So we need to compete in a different way. We need to compete on meaningful work, on building systems that serve Canadians. We need to compete on the mission. And finally, I want to point to something that we're calling the adoption paradox. We've got 50% of public servants that are actually using different AI systems, whether it's LLMs and ChatGPTs and Perplexities and Copilots and all and the like. But there's a 22% adoption rate in terms of formal frameworks, governance structures, or at least a perception of 22% adoption rate of formal frameworks and governance structures and so on at the departmental level. So there's this gap, at least a perceived gap, in terms of adoption and use of AI products and AI tools and the formalized systems that govern their use, right? Now, that disconnect is not all bad news, right? It means that we have a bunch of enthusiastic workers that are actually ready to use AI, they're ready to work with it, but they need better foundations for data, they need better tools, and they need better guidance on how to do it safely and effectively. So that's our starting point. We've looked at capacity constraints, trust gaps, structural challenges, and this adoption paradox. What strikes me here, though, is that it's not really, these aren't AI problems. I think that they are data problems that our use of AI is exposing. Now, AI is incredibly good at amplifying whatever you feed it, right? If you feed it biased data, it gives you biased results. If you feed it fragmented or incomplete data, it gives you fragmented and unreliable results. If you feed it, well, you get the gist of it. The encouraging part, though, is that we can fix the foundation because data can be fixed. So this is how I see the framework. At the base, we've got quality data. This is the foundation that everything else rests on, okay? And what that means, when I think about quality data, I'm thinking about three things in particular. I'm thinking about accuracy, all right? Is the data correct and up to date? I'm thinking about representativeness, all right? And that's the same thing as completeness, really, in a way. Does it reflect the actual, in the case of government and services and so on, does it actually reflect the diversity of Canadians that we're trying to serve? And finally, sourcing. Do we know where the data comes from? How it was collected? Can we trust it? Can we trace its lineage? If this foundation is weak, your data is biased, it's incomplete, and so on, right? Once you have that quality data, once you have that foundation, you need the infrastructure to manage it properly. And that means governance, it means clear policies and so on. It means security, protecting the proper, having proper protections and sensitivities. And integration, making sure that the data from different sources actually speak to each other and actually can come together when necessary through those active controls. This I've noticed in working with organizations and clients and so on. This is where a lot of organizations kind of get stuck. You've got some good data, but it's sitting in silos, different departments using different systems, legacies, all of that stuff. Third layer, human oversight, and I think this is really, really critical. AI does not interpret itself, right? You need people with expertise to understand the domain. Whether it's healthcare or social services or transportation, you need people who understand the context, the local realities, the cultural nuances, right? You need people to be able to ask themselves and exercise judgment. Does this output make sense? Who might be harmed? What are we missing? What's invisible? AI is a tool. I'm going to say this a couple of times. AI is a tool. It doesn't make decisions. People who use AI can make decisions. People make decisions informed by AI. And that's it. So when you get all these layers right, quality data, strong infrastructure, human oversight, that's when you get the outcomes that you're looking for at the top of this pyramid. You're getting trust from the public, you're getting effectiveness in service delivery, you're getting equity in how those services reach Canadians. But you can't skip the levels. You can't go straight to trusted outcomes by jumping over to, jumping past the foundation first, right? So let's dive a little bit deeper into the foundation here, data quality. And I want to repeat what I said. Again, accuracy, and it's fundamental. If the data is wrong, the AI will be wrong. That's the end of it, right? It'll be wrong at scale, it'll be wrong systematically, and it'll be wrong repeatedly, right? And we've heard this before today, garbage in, garbage out, all of that remains true. Second, representativeness, bias, right? The issue of bias creeps in here when you don't have proper representativeness in your data. If your training data overrepresents a certain community and underrepresents another, what happens? The question isn't just do we have the data, but whose data do we have, who's included, who's invisible? And third, proper sourcing. Where does your data come from? How was it collected? Does it meet privacy standards? Is it regularly updated? These aren't just compliance questions, right? They determine whether you can trust the outputs themselves. So what does that look like in the Canadian context? First, well, in the Canadian context, we have some strong foundations to work on, all right, to work from. Statistics Canada is a pioneer in small area estimation. It's a methodology that was pioneered by our statistical agency to provide reliable data for smaller communities at sub-provincial levels. Why does this matter in the AI context? Well, because provincial and national averages will necessarily produce results that don't take into account local contexts and local nuances and so on. Second, Canada's demonstrated some real leadership in privacy and data protection for decades. Our leadership in marketing, in engineering, in design, legal and compliance, it's played a role in building trust in the responsible and ethical use of data in this country. We need to remind ourselves, actually, that Canada is one of the birthplaces of privacy by design. We introduced some of the strongest privacy laws over 25 years ago. And this matters enormously for AI because it means that we have the principle-based foundations to leverage data and maintain the trust and privacy protections that Canadians expect. And third, across this country, we're developing all these complementary data ecosystems, the public and the private sector, right? Government organizations, federal, provincial, municipal, have all this valuable first-party data about the certain citizens and the jurisdictions they serve. And the data is powerful in and of itself, but it can be enhanced because you have the opportunity to partner with verified, trusted sources that provide additional context, demographic intelligence, geographic linking, propensity modeling, that all help to fill gaps and provide more comprehensive views that AI needs to work well and provide more representative and accurate outputs. Now, our work at EA, I'm going to do a bit of a pitch here just for a moment, so bear with me. Our work at EA really provides a very practical example of privacy-first, AI-ready data in the Canadian context. We're a Canadian company, homegrown, right, based out of Toronto. We are privacy by design certified, and that means that privacy is built into our architecture. It's not bolted on afterwards. We're SOC 2 compliant, meaning that we meet government security standards, and these aren't just credentials, they're actual operational requirements that shape how we handle data every single day. For AI readiness, we have 30,000 different variables per residential postal code across this country from over 80 verified partners We geocode all those data points. Everything is linkable to government systems. All our data is being structured in a way to support machine learning and AI applications. And this granularity matters because in order to avoid this averaging problem, you can use data that actually represents the communities and the jurisdictions that you're focused on. Our data is AI ready, but we're also, as an organization, AI ready. We just implemented and just launched the 2.0 version of our SaaS mapping and reporting platform, Envision. We're ensuring that all our technology, any technology that we adopt, is used responsibly and in ways that protect privacy, confidentiality, and the quality outputs that we promise our clients. That includes things like working with clean room environments when sensitive data and personally identifiable information is included. And as a Canadian company, we're invested in processing and developing data, or Canadian data, in Canada, developing Canadian infrastructure and supporting Canadian public services. The second theme, on top of quality data, is better data unlocking better AI. Now, 28% of government IT systems, based on my research, I might be off by a couple of percent, but based on my research, 28% of government IT systems are legacy or end of life. This data sits in silos across departments at different levels of government and regions. And this is nobody's fault. Again, this is the result of evolution over decades of developing purpose-built systems to answer specific and discrete problems and provide specific and discrete solutions. But the cumulative effect is that we have valuable data everywhere that can't easily work in AI environments and AI applications. The encouraging part is that we have actual proof that this is solvable. We have friends here from Aption who are involved with work through NRCan and Shared Services Canada to build the Federal Science Data Hub, where Shared Services Canada brought together researchers from 24 different departments to co-design a platform that actually meets their needs. So what ended up happening after 2 years of proofs of concept was not building in isolation, but building with researchers who would be using it. So program folks and technical folks came together, co-designed, built, and implemented this solution, which meant that now 650 different researchers at the federal level from across departments and across use cases and across priorities have access to all of this data that has a strong governance structure built into it and has made this data readily accessible for multiple purposes. What makes this relevant to our conversation is that in the context of siloed data, this broke down silos. Now researchers can share all of this data cross-departmentally, and again, because the data quality was handled, because the infrastructure, because the governance models to manage the data across the board were handled up front, the infrastructure allowed for this cross-pollination of research. The third pillar. There's a dangerous narrative out there, in my opinion, that AI is going to dominate all decision-making and replace human expertise. And I think that's a wrong narrative. It's inaccurate, and it's alarmist. But there is a first principle here. AI doesn't make decisions, people do, right? AI produces outputs, it generates predictions, it generates recommendations, it generates classifications, but humans need to decide what to do with those outputs. A model might flag an application for review, but it's the human eye that's going to determine why that application should have gotten flagged in the first place and what to do about it. A system might recommend particular ways to allocate resources, but a program manager will decide whether that recommendation accounts for factors that can't be accounted for within the data. Second principle, context beats algorithms. I don't care how sophisticated your model is. Okay? Context beats algorithms. You need context to better understand the output of an algorithm. An algorithm alone can't tell you about the relationship between community organizations, for example. It can't tell you about the history of why a certain program succeeded or failed locally. Excuse me. Or the nuances of local political dynamics that might have affected implementation. The third principle, oversight ensures responsibility. Someone has to ask, who might be harmed by this system? Are we perpetuating biases? Can we explain our decisions? Are we maintaining accountability to the public? These are ethical questions that require human values, human judgment, and human responsibility. They're not just technical questions. So, how do you build human-centered AI capability? There are three concrete actions that I identified in the research and in the introspection that took place as I put this together. First, invest in AI literacy. 85% of public sector employees have reported low AI literacy and fluency. But compare that against 50% who are actively using AI tools to help them with their work, okay? So the literacy isn't, when I'm talking about literacy, I'm not talking about coding. I'm talking about being effective consumers of AI, right? I'm talking about understanding what AI can and cannot do, and in the context of their work, knowing when to trust recommendations and when to question them. Second, design for collaboration from day one. Put your technical folks and your program people and your local experts all in one room right at the beginning. Okay? Get genuine co-design going, not a build it and show you approach. And this collaboration should extend beyond your organization as well. Think about it not just internally, but also externally. Bring partners in through strategic public-private partnerships that help to bring your mission and mandate and share your values as an organization. Organizations that put privacy, transparency, and ethical data and AI use at the forefront of the way that they do business. And third, maintain clear accountability. Who makes the final decision when AI conflicts with human judgment? What's the review process? Who monitors fairness over time? How is fairness determined? When you work with private sector partners, you can actually work with partners that can share your commitment to privacy, transparency, data sovereignty. So when we bring this all together, we started by looking at Canada's AI landscape. The adoption paradox, the capacity constraints, the trust gap, the infrastructure challenges. The three themes that I shared with you today are what I feel and what we think at EA, at Environics Analytics, is the path forward. Quality data matters the most. Accuracy, representativeness, proper sourcing, they're non-negotiable. Okay. If your foundation was weak, everything you build on top will be unstable. Second, better data unlocking better AI through infrastructure that breaks down silos, enables collaboration, and supports responsible governance. And third, people make AI work. Okay? And make it work through literacy, through collaboration, and through clear accountability. So, start with data quality, not AI use cases. Build partnerships that share values, and invest in people just as much as you invest in technology. Thank you.
Thanks, Nader. Any questions? Just right here. Oop. Do you have the mic for him? Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much for this presentation. It is like one of the clearest presentations today in terms of like how we can actually leverage AI in a realistic way, and not like kind of idealistic or like, oh, use it to kind of do this or that or whatever. I just had two questions. One was pertaining to the paradox. So you said that it had to do with like the paradox was part of a research kind of thing, right? So the first part was like people use AI. Or like, do people in the public sector use AI? And then the other portion of it was like, was there like an official process or like an official kind of framework for AI in the organization that they're working on? So I'm just curious, like for the first half, asking kind of like employees or like people in the public sector, is that like AI in general, or is it like AI relating to, for instance, sensitive information or sensitive data? Because like not all AI use like is created equal, right? Like if I'm like using AI for like a sentence or an email, that's one thing. But like if I'm using it for like very sensitive information, that's very different. And that's why I feel like that kind of the second like that kind of portion aligns more with like organizations having a framework, because usually when you have an AI framework, it's more comprehensive and it includes the data portion. So I wanted to kind of like see what your thoughts are on that one. And the second portion, and it's kind of related, but it speaks to the kind of like the federal government, like the federal example for like using AI. Like, what would your advice be to kind of like, advice would be for people who, for instance, want to implement AI, but there are always kind of hurdles in terms of privacy and sensitive data, especially that like a lot of people assume that Copilot is like, like, because we're already in the Microsoft kind of ecosystem, so we can use Copilot freely, but like Copilot is also kind of, based on OpenAI models, so because there is a partnership between OpenAI and Microsoft. So kind of like how to get over this hurdle, especially given that it is very hard to create like internal AI, like, just like insulated internal AI tools and basically. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so as I understand it, your first question was seeking clarity around the AI, was seeking clarity around the adoption paradox, right? And your second question was around frameworks to inform proper usage of AI tools?
Do you want the
Okay,
mic?
so question one. What I'm referring to as the adoption paradox was really about, you're right, there's a whole bunch of people that are using any number of different LLMs, okay? And someone might be using it to help prepare a briefing note, right? That briefing note may have one sentence that is actually sensitive information, right? But that AI needs that piece of sensitive information to be able to produce that full briefing note. Does the user recognize that piece of sensitive information, even though the intentions might be good, right? I want to be efficient. I want to do my work more effectively. AI can help me do that. I can put together this briefing note very quickly, and I can tweak it and make sure that it's out by, EOD with, because that needs to happen, and I have these like 100 other things that I have to do, right? All good intentions, right? But is there enough literacy? Is there enough fluency? Is there enough recognition among all users across the public sector? Let's not even stick to the public sector here. Is there enough fluency among workers who are using AI tools without a proper kind of formal do's and don'ts list, right? Who can be counted on to use these tools properly without compromising the potential for sensitive information leaving the ecosystem of the organization in which they work. right? That's the question around the AI adoption paradox here, right? Now, when I say 22% of organizations have formalized strategies or do's and don'ts documents or frameworks, I'm referring more to perception. There might be 80% adoption of these frameworks sitting somewhere on a network, right? But it is incumbent upon the leaders of these organizations to make sure that their employees become fluent and become familiar and are trained on those frameworks, right? That's what I'm referring to in terms of the adoption paradox. And I think that kind of answers your second question, right? A little bit? Okay.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much, Nader,
Okay.
for closing us off. We appreciate it. All right, sorry, we ran out of time for last questions. I think you might have some people who will bug you after.
I'm sorry?
We ran out of time for some questions, so you
that's
might
all
have
right.
some people bugging you after. All right, so that is it for the session today. Thanks for sticking with us. I just have a few notes that I took when I was on these variety of panels that I wanted to share with you guys. So today I saw a few themes. It was around solving problems, and based on what Nader just said, make sure you have a lens on data quality, prove success fast, right? And then fund governance with optimism is what Gina said that I thought was super interesting. And during the panel, I said, she's putting a different vibe on governance, but I think I'm going to take it to heart to try to change the kind of like the frustrating feel you usually get when people approach you with governance. It actually is a good partnership to move on. And then grow solutions for our citizens was also a takeaway I had, because we are the public sector. And if you have ever chatted with me, you would probably hear me say that one of the best things I did moving to OLG is that I can contribute right back to Ontario. And that really resonated with me, that a lot of people are doing these things and they can show impact right back to Ontario. One thing I put a note here that Supriya mentioned in the modernization panel I was on is to treat modernization as an enabler, not as the strategy itself. So when people are trying to move or build an AI infrastructure, sometimes they jump straight to the tech that could help move them there, right? Getting on Azure, using MCP. But truly, that's not the strategy. The strategy is around the use case of AI. I also liked what that panel said about quick wins. And my concern that I posed to Chris and Supriya on that panel was, does quick wins actually taint what people think of you in the future? Because they're seeing you accomplish so many things so quickly. What happens when that momentum runs out and you have to deliver big milestones more sporadically down? And they mentioned that a roadmap is not really a quantity of things you achieve in a specific amount of months. A roadmap is overcoming challenges, right? That has its own milestone. So that really changed the way I thought about things. And just lastly, Doug took us through his AI mobilization playbook. He had the intake process, which I took a note of here because we tried to build AI apps within my team. And although he was saying be problem first, I actually saw that come again in the Toronto Public Library session we had with Sapita, because she was showing this bridge solution that they made from scratch. And she showed me that it looked really rough in the first version, but it was because they were focusing on the user experience and how they tailored it to get it to the vision of being useful for librarians. And that was super interesting. Doug also took us through paper prototyping, so making a quick version, leaving it up for 12 weeks, then the POC, then the MVP. And I think what Nader just said, just to kind of wrap up the AI mobilization playbook, it was around building human-centric capability, right, and focusing on partnerships. And I think that add-on to Doug's work on this AI mobilization playbook really wrapped up that piece for me. So anyhow, to summarize, a lot of good playbook information today, a lot of like grounded, governed with intent, high quality data coming in. And I think today is like a foundational build preparing us for tomorrow. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. The networking session is next door. I hope to meet you guys in person. Come say hi. All right, and thanks for your attention.
Hello, everybody. How was day one? It was good? Okay, it's gonna get better. Okay, I have got some great.